In this episode, I speak with the gorgeous Lola Berry, author, TV presenter, actor, and nutritionist, and we talk all about her brand new book, Fearlessly Failing. Lola shares her biggest life failures. We go through the categories of love and relationships, work and career and finances, and health as well. And she shares some amazing stories that are really inspiring of how much you can feel like your life's gone wrong, or you're doing it wrong, or this is a disaster and you can't recover from it, and how to maneuver out of it. And Lola's done that every time, just like you and I can as well. You're going to absolutely love this episode as much as I did. I also found it so exciting to talk to Lola about her recent travels, living in LA and moving back to Australia, traveling in the pandemic. What an interesting story that is as well, to hear how she's been handling that. And just a really amazing catch up where we talk all about living with fear and how to not let it stop you from going after your biggest dreams. Lola's such an inspiring girl. You're going to love this episode. Okay, let's go to the show. Welcome back to the show, Lola. It's been over a year since you were last on the Anxiety Reset podcast. You're one of my first guests. So welcome back. You're definitely a valued person to be here.
Oh, I was just saying to you before we hit record, I've seen so many of my inspiring mates on here since. So it's been wonderful to see your pod grow. I, as you know, am a podcast nerd and I love them and I love doing them. I now have 2 a week. I'm obsessed with podcasting. So I love watching yours. And last night before our interview today, I did a stalk and I went all the way back on your Insta and watched all your little audio grabs. Yeah. So it was really cool to go back and see, so many mates featured on this podcast.
Oh, that's awesome. And you were episode 11, and now this is going to be episode, I think, 146. I'll have to double check that. But yeah, there's been a lot.
That's impressive. That's so, I don't know what couldn't even tell you what I'm up to. I got no idea. No idea.
Who needs to know? At the end of the day, it's not about the numbers. It's about, the value of what you're putting out there, isn't it?
But you learn so much. Do you feel as a host you've changed from episode 11 to now?
Oh, 1,000,000%. I'm sure if you went back and listened to how our podcast episode went then, in fact, anyone listening, go check it out.
Put it in the show notes.
Yeah, I will. And I'm probably different as my interviewer sort of style has developed. And I'm sure you'll be different because it's been a year, right? And we're just different every year.
Mate, I feel like I've turned into a whole new person since being in America. I feel like I've completely changed and grown. So I'm so excited to sit with that and talk about it.
Yeah. Well, okay. So last year we were chatting, we were both in lockdown. You were in Torquay. I was down on the peninsula. We were just kind of enjoying a bit of beach escape to get through. And now you've been in LA. I know you've had a million questions about this on social media, but for my people, give us a rundown of what that journey has been like. Firstly, the decision to move to LA in this time as well. You crazy girl. I absolutely love your fearlessness in just going for it anyway and just being like, screw you, well, I don't really care. I'm just going to go after my dreams anyway.
I mean, I love that that's the way it's been perceived, but it was obviously super stressful. And I tried so I went over for legal reasons to activate my green card. And I had pushed it out already by 6 months because I couldn't get a flight out because of COVID and border lockdowns.
Yeah.
And luckily I work with an amazing immigration lawyer and he was able to get me a brand new another 6 months, but I paid for that. That cost $2,000 of new medicals and everything to get to America. And then when I got there, it was still the height of the pandemic in America. Australia was doing pretty well in May. And so I flew there knowing you have to sign this stat deck when you leave Australia, or when I left Australia, saying you will not re-enter Australia for 90 days or you can be put in prison. It's so full on. And so I knew when I was leaving, I'd have to leave for 3 months, and I had a return ticket booked. and I had 3 return flights cancelled. It was really full on. It was an amazing experience, and obviously LA feels quite different to Australia right now, COVID wise. But yeah, it was definitely tough at times as well. Like, I don't want to sugarcoat it. It was still a very what's that saying? Like, you got to walk through the fire to kind of like, I don't
Yeah.
know what the saying is, but it was like really rebirth vibes.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Like Khaleesi coming out of the ashes with a dragon baby.
Oh, I love that you just likened me to Khaleesi. Day made, day made.
I can see it. That's what came to mind, Lola. So, did you just like, what was your mental game going into this? Because I know you obviously work very closely with your therapist and, work on your mental health. Kind of going through these challenges and framing this trip and signing things like you have to be away for 3 months. Was there something that you kind of told yourself, some kind of mantra that pulled you through?
Yeah, look, I'm so for people that want to know anything about the green card thing, you get one in a lifetime, and my first application was rejected. So if my second one got rejected, I would never get one in my life. And if I didn't get in onto American soil in time, I would lose it. So I was super aware of like how high the stakes were for me. They were like super life or death for me because it's always been a huge career dream of mine. And so I went there. I couldn't even fly out. Like I live in Byron Bay, and I couldn't fly the same day. Like I had to fly to Sydney, spend a night in Sydney, be on it, like stay at a mate's house, get an Uber at 6 a.m., be on that flight, sit in Sydney airport, on your own. And then, which is empty. It's like a ghost town right now. And then landed in LA, booked in for my vax. Like it was just really, it was felt like a very survival kind of trip. Like I was like, right, what do I legally need to do to set myself up here? And then I don't know if you watch the news, but Australia's put a few restrictions on permanent residents that live in other countries, not just America, on getting out and getting back. And so quickly had to call lawyers halfway through my trip, and I was like, all right, what are my options? And I had to like literally, I went down to DMV, which is like their version of Vic Roads. And I was like, I need ID, I need license, and I started to like really just like cross off as many things as I could off my kind of like proof of ID list. It was just really full on, but great as well.
Oh my gosh. And who would have thought that you would need like lawyers, and I know you worked really closely with a travel agent too, just to get all of it, just to something that 2 years ago was the simplest thing. Book a flight, get over
Oh,
there.
$800 used to be able to get there for. It's cost me 10,000 economy to get back, plus 3,000 hotel quarantine. Like it's so expensive, and that's a lot of money. I know I don't have kids or anything, so I probably have got like a pinch more disposable cash, but it still stresses me the F out.
Oh, totally. And so that element where it's like, this is a once in a lifetime opportunity, going for your dream, and almost like, I have to do this. Like, there is no failing. There's no not doing this. Is that kind of, did that almost bring you out of the fear of it in a way? Because it was just so out of your control?
Well, I almost felt like I was just in it. Like I was in the fear. I was in the, like, even when I got to American customs, I had to hand over 15 kilos of paperwork of my two cases, the one that got rejected and the second one. So I had no hand luggage. My hand luggage was a rolly suitcase full of paperwork. And he said to me, the guy at customs, he was like, I've never seen anyone in my career have to hand over this much paperwork, and it's all pre-sealed manila folders. Like it's all stamped by the US consulate. Like you're not allowed to open them. You don't even know what's in there.
And this is for one person
One
to
human
enter
being
America and have a
as an
green card.
American.
Yeah.
Yeah, as an American resident. Like the second he stamps your passport, you become a permanent American resident. And then in 3 years from then, I'll start my citizenship process. So I'll be going for citizenship in about 3 years, which is really exciting. But whew, I get now, I understand why Aussies in America are all band together. Like so many Aussies literally just take you under their wing and invite you places and hang with you because it's so hard for an Australian to get the paperwork to just live there.
Yeah, crazy. Now you're in your hotel quarantine. Was that a knock at the door, Lola?
That was it. I'm glad you called it. Do you know the last podcast I did? I got my mental health check. So I got a phone call halfway through. But yeah, I got a knock at the door. So I don't know what that is. I'm guessing it's a delivery
Meal?
of some sort.
Is that
I
maybe your
just got
lunch?
my lunch. I just got my lunch delivered. So I'm hoping it's a Prezi.
Oh, it might be a Prezi. Well, so you're in hotel quarantine. It seems like you are doing an epic job of getting through quarantine like a sane person. What are some of your tricks that you've got up your sleeve?
Number one, book a podcast with you, because I really wanted to have a podcast booked in a day just so that I got out of bed and had something to hold me really accountable. So I've made sure that I've had booked in for the book, and I hired a treadmill. So the best $295 I've spent. So you get to hire the treadmill for the 2 weeks, and I just set myself a goal of 10,000 steps a day. And I'm really lucky my window's open. So fresh air, moving the bod. I get Woolworths orders so that, like, if the food's not totally what I would eat, then I can make it or substitute it a little bit. And
Yeah.
I get all my foods gluten free, so they've been really great with that.
Oh, lovely. I didn't even know that the like fresh air thing was a thing. I didn't realize that that would like it just hadn't crossed my mind that you would be stuck in a box for 14 days without windows that open. I just assumed they would, but obviously that's been a big thing.
I was having full blown anxiety about it. Like, I was calling my travel agent. And I was like, "Do we have any idea where I'm going? And what is there any, like, and I was reading on all these like quarantine groups on Facebook, because I was like, I need to figure this out." And I just got so lucky. So I'm wrapped.
And so people do quarantine with no opening windows.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. People have been sending me photos on Instagram, and I'm like, "Oh, wow." Like, I'm like so lucky.
Yeah, and I've heard you say that a lot, which is just showing you just living and breathing that like gratitude for what you can. Sounds like also, Lola, you've been lucky enough to have quite a few gifts arrive. I saw the fairy lights. That looked awesome.
I planned them 2 months ago. I said to the boss, I'm like, we're getting fairy lights no matter what. And he was like, yep. He's like, I'll get you a humidifier. That was our plan if the windows didn't open. But when I checked in, they were like, no humidifiers allowed. And also the windows open, so I didn't need one anyway. Yeah, the fairy lights I've got. What else? My dear friend Jane, who's also my publicist, I got in. She like literally as I'm checking in at hotel, she's like, "What hotel are you at?" And I was like, Meriton, like, gave her all the details. By the time I got to my room, because you got to do like quite a few checks, to get to you, there was this massive box of like daisies, fresh ingredients. She threw in a magazine with Margot Robbie on the front of it. I was wrapped. Like, so
Oh,
care packs are the best.
so fun. It's kind of like Christmas for you then. Like, not to obviously, it's not easy, but yeah, that's a good way to do it. Just have fun with it.
Yeah, and look, like, I know how hard it is to fly into Australia right now, so I'm just grateful that I've even got here to honour the release of the book and really make the book the best that it can be. That's my focus, and of course, to see the boss of Chingo, my boyfriend, the boss. Can't wait. We keep saying 11 more sleeps.
So close. That must be really, really exciting for you. One thing I was disappointed to see is you mentioned briefly, and we don't have to linger on this too long, but just people also not being very kind to you about what's happening at the moment. Now, I just don't understand that perspective because but the world is so divided in so many ways, in so many topics and things at the moment. It's so disappointing because I just feel like why can't we see how we are only creating more separation, more division? And that is not the way, guys. Like, it's going back to even primary school teamwork. Like, let's be in this together.
Totally. I mean, I've been getting trolled every day. Like, last night as I fell asleep, someone wrote, "You're a vile human being." Like, every single day I'm getting it at the moment. But I mean, like, it's fine. Like, I booked my therapist in on Tuesday. So I had my therapist on a couple of days ago on Tuesday. And I just did all the things that I know support my mental health. And I think, yeah, I'm getting trolled heaps, but like, and the reality is, and this is going to sound really negative, but some people are legends. You know what I mean? Like, they got this spark, they're amazing. Like, they'll go out of their way to make you feel welcome, and I'm getting so much beautiful support. Um, some people are dingoes though, and you can't help that. And you know,
Yeah.
dingoes are out there. You got to just call them out. That's my big thing now, is like call out the BS and then say bye.
Yeah, yeah, good on you. It sounds like you've definitely got a beautiful approach to managing it. And hey, wouldn't be the first time you've had to deal with that kind of stuff anyway. So I suppose, does it get easier?
Um, I as a human am more comfortable standing in the fire now.
Mm.
I would have been a lot more emotional even a year ago. But I think having been in America on my own for the last 4.5 months, I'm like, okay, let's do this. Like, and so I'll sit in the uncomfortable quite comfortably now and just be like, all right, there is going to be a solution here. Let's troubleshoot it. Um, let's get on the front foot of this. Like I've had a few journalists calling me about the trolling, and I'm like, yep, I'll take a call, and I'll get on the call straight away with the journalist, and they'll be like, how do you feel about this? How do you feel about you flying to Australia being insensitive? And I'll be like, this is my story. This is what happened. It was a legal business trip. Like I've got nothing to hide. My whole shtick is just like be transparent. So I said to the journos, I was like, ask me whatever you want. I'm not going to hide it from you.
And my perspective on it, firstly, it's no judgment, and it's also, you've got your own story, you've got your own stuff, and there's so many restrictions at the moment. If you're traveling, you clearly got a good bloody reason to do so. So, you know, it's just bizarre. I don't understand people sometimes, but I suppose it makes me think of that Brene Brown anecdote analogy around, she quotes Eleanor Roosevelt saying, I'm not interested, I'm not quoting it correctly here, but, I'm not interested in the opinions of the people throwing rotten tomatoes from the back of the stage. Like, I'm on the stage and your opinion's just not it's just not going to measure up. It's not worthy to me. When you're not up, you're on the stage as well. Like, people.
Yeah, that's the same thing of like a lion doesn't lose sleep over the opinions of sheep.
Yeah,
It's the same.
that's the same thing. Exactly.
Yeah.
It's like,
I love it. I love it. And I think that all the time. I've got one song that I've been listening to on my treadmill on repeat. And I've got to face a few. I had to let go of a couple of narcissistic friends before I left. And it was really confronting for me because it's like, even though I sound really tough to you, I'm also a people pleaser and I'm a Virgo. So I'm a perfectionist. And I know, like, I'm already feeling confronted because I know I'm going to see them again, and I'm going to have to face them. And like, that mantra that like lion doesn't lose sleep over the judgment of sheep, like lion doesn't lose sleep over the judgment. I think about it all the time because I know I have to sit in fire quite a bit in the next little chunk of time, and that's okay because it strengthens you and it teaches you a lot. But like, the hard thing is when you're dealing with people that are quite manipulative, they'll try and gaslight you or make you doubt yourself and stuff. So I really am focused on just being so clear right now.
yeah, I guess it's looking out for those people who feed your doubt and your fear versus the ones that are like, yeah, Lola, you can do anything. You're awesome. I mean, I'm the same, and I've been through things in where it's just about you've literally got your own self-belief taking you through somewhere, taking you where you want to go, and that's your most valuable asset, and you have to protect it.
100%, 100%. Like it, I was actually interviewing someone on the podcast and he's like, you've got to believe in yourself more than anybody else in the room. And you've also got, he always says, he goes, you have to do the thing that scares you so much, like out of you have to run towards that. And that's kind of been my mantra with everything of late.
Well, this is the thing. We cannot get rid of fear. We have to live with it. So what are our choices? Let fear stop you, or kind of get used to carrying it with you?
And it can be exciting. Fear can be exciting.
That's true.
As well. Like you can, like I've been training intensely at acting school in Los Angeles, and every time I go up on stage, I get so nervous and anxious and fearful, and all my insecurities come in, and then some stuff I didn't even know I was insecure about. And then because you got to speak in a different dialect, like it's an American accent, so your natural inclination, your natural emotions that want to come up, they've got to go through the filter of, whoa, change this from Aussie into American. And so you feel very, very nude and naked, really. But I've learned to like love that feeling of being like, oh my goodness, am I going to fail right now? Oh my goodness, am I going to stuff this up right? I actually love that feeling.
Yeah, it's just like the idea, like we deliberately scare ourselves sometimes. Like if anyone's likes theme park rides, we deliberately say, let's go do that. That will be fun. I don't know,
Skydiving.
Splash Mountain, Disneyland. Like, I mean, to be honest though, I must say, as a kid, I never liked that stuff. I was always like, but I've had to learn to.
So I'm the opposite. I will run towards, I don't know why, like I've skydived. I think my brother is the same. Like he's skydived like 6 times, but I've swam in the wild with giant whale sharks. And I quite like that feeling of being like, I enjoy that for some reason. I don't like crazy, scary movies anymore because it F's up my sleep. But other than that, like I quite like the feeling of being like, I just did that thing that's really scary for me. And I had a mantra for many years in my 20s to do one thing that scares the absolute bejesus out of me a year, one thing a year. But now I just do it anyway. Like I just live that way.
So there was skydiving, swimming with whale sharks. What else have you done that's like out of through your 20s, one thing a year? That's got to be a lot of things.
Yeah, I had to sing. So for the Starlight Foundation, they did a charity night and I had to sing Marilyn Monroe, Diamonds Are a Girl's Best Friend. I can't even listen to it again because I'm tone deaf. So you can imagine how that went down at Crown Palladium, full of fucking 1,000 people. Sorry, I just swore.
Don't worry.
Yeah, like that was a biggie. But even like last year, like my dad came up to Byron, and this might sound really harmless, but we kayaked out in the wild, like with dolphins, and I was like, we're in Byron Bay shark territory. So that was scary for me, you know.
Yeah.
The day before I left for America, a friend of mine, I went to a friend's house to say goodbye to one of my dear friends in Byron, and he said, I have a friend waiting for you on the balcony. And I went out, and it was this ginormous python, huge. And I got up and I filmed it. I still look at the video because I'm like, how am I that fearless? And I went over and I filmed it. I went right up to this thing. Like he could have pulled his head out and just got me straight away. And I was like, fearless, mate. I don't know why. I don't know what like everyone else was saying back. I was literally like almost on top of this snake. And I was like, do you think I can pat him? Like that's what was going through my head. But could you imagine you'd be screwed if you patted a snake?
Oh my gosh, Lola. Wait, so this wasn't a pet snake. This was like
A wild python. Yeah.
oh my gosh. You must have just been overcome with curiosity.
And my dad's a vet. So I've grown up with so many animals around me. And so people used to drop echidnas on our front like porch and stuff when we were young. So maybe I'm just like an inquisitive one of my dreams is to swim in the wild with orca whales in Norway.
Oh, that's a cool one.
Scary though.
I saw a video just like the other day of an otter escaping these orca whales. Have you seen it?
On the boat. He jumps on the boat.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're no joke. They're apex. So they could kill us, boom, like that. So I think my plan is I want to kayak with them in the wild first, and you can do that in British Columbia. And then I'll work up to maybe when I'm like 50 or something and like down the track I can, but apparently the water is freezing. It's black. I don't like black water. I've never enjoyed black water, really dark water. Like that's what's so good about swimming with whale sharks in the Maldives. Even though you're out super, super deep, the water is very, very blue. So even though it's quite dark, it's very blue. It's not black. Black water freaks me out.
Well, I guess that's the ultimate unknown. Like it's the unknown of the psyche. It's like we don't want that. I'll never say never, but I'm pretty sure at this point in my life, I never want to skydive. Like I thought about it in my mid-20s and I just don't think I need to put my body through that.
Do you want to know the funniest thing? You'll love this. I'd done a car deal with Ford and they bought out this new environmental 4-wheel drive thing. And they're like, we want you to go on adventures because we want the car to be adventure based and, we've got these ideas for PR for it. So they gave me the car for like 3 months or something. And they're like, these are your options. 1, skydiving. 2, Bikram yoga. And I was like, yo, I do that every day. Why is that an adventure? And then they said, or glamping. And I wrote back and I was like, oh, I'd love to go glamping, but I really think I should say yes to skydiving. And they said, you can do both. And I said, oh, I'll skydive if I can bring a mate. And they were like, yep, we'll pay for your best mate to skydive with you. Honestly, for 2 weeks in the lead up, anytime I talked to someone, my palms would start sweating. If I brought up skydiving, I was so nervous. But the second, and this is the really interesting thing about our brains, the second I sat in that little plane with the stupid like plastic roller door that feels so flimsy, it's not going to protect you. as soon as they shut that door and we were corkscrewing up and going up and up above the first layer of cloud and then the second layer of cloud, I was like, you're here now. Give over to this experience. And all my fear went. But until the second I sat in that plane, up until then, the guy was like, this is the other crazy thing, because it's like adrenaline junkies. The guy was like doing all the, because I was jumping tandem, and he goes, what are you going to give me if I keep you alive? And I said, anything. And he asked me out when I landed because he's like, you promised.
That's so cute. I love how jokey they are in
Oh,
those sort of scenarios. And it's like, this is not a joke.
yeah.
I totally get that surrender though. I think I know I have the ability to surrender like that. Like I don't like it. It takes a lot to do it, but I could. And so that's where I'm like, maybe I will, just to see, just to test the limits and really push myself into, well, I have to surrender. It's like pandemic. We've had to surrender to all the things going off plan.
If you're going to do it in Australia, I'd be doing it in Byron Bay. It's the highest drop point in Australia too.
Oh,
I'll do it with you. I'd love to do it in Byron. I really want to do it in Byron. You do get a taste. Wow, you do get a taste. You wanted to keep doing it.
I had an opportunity to do it in Mexico, but I didn't like, I like the idea of the safety standards of Australia. So
Right. And that's why, because I really wanted to do it in Queenstown in New Zealand too, but apparently same, there's a, yeah.
really, so
I
it's
think
safer
so.
here.
Yeah, I think I could be wrong, but just from memory, because I really wanted to do it over Queenstown, because apparently as you fall over the mountains, there's this optical illusion that you're going to hit the mountains. And weirdly, my brain was like, yeah, let's pretend we're falling onto the mountain. Woo. But
Oh my gosh.
I love it.
This is so amazing how you've conditioned your brain over repeated practice attempts at walking into fear deliberately as like, this is a good thing, because we got the fear anyway. So we might as well just like work with it.
Honestly, if you want to build that, go to acting school, because you have to do it or every time you go up. Like, it's so embarrassing. You feel humiliated, you feel embarrassed, you feel so vulnerable, you feel nude. Acting school forces you to like literally walk into that uncomfortable space and be like, well, this is where I am right now. This is who I am right now. And it's completely changed me. Like I said this on my Instagram, like up until I went to America, I was embarrassed to call myself an actor and a TV host, because I've never had a paid acting gig, really. Well, nothing that I like is that legit.
Yeah.
I've never, every TV hosting gig where I've actually hosted a pilot has never been greenlit. So technically they're all failures. And I would never have introduced myself. I'd just be like, oh, I'm a nutritionist, yoga teacher, and author. That's used to be kind of like my little tagline. And now that I'm back, I'm like, hey, I'm Lola. I'm an actor and TV presenter, TV host. Like, it's amazing. And who cares? Like, in America, they're like, oh, great. Where
Yeah.
can I see what you've done? Oh, you've got a book out? Cool. Oh, you've got a coffee company? Cool. Like, Americans just love that. Whereas in Australia, they can like pipe down, Lola, tall poppy. So I really want to bring that positivity and that optimism and that fearlessness back with me, because I think we can all grow from it.
That's amazing. And that's so true. And this is what I mean. Like, I've been in that place where you've just got to call yourself the thing you want to be before you're really there yet. And that self-belief, like you have to defend it and protect it and nurture it and nourish it like you wouldn't believe. So that means if people need to be culled or like distanced from, it has to happen.
Oh, yeah. And it's important. I think that's an important part of getting into your 30s too, like having the self-belief and self-understanding to understand your own value system, to be able to go, okay, you're not my person, and that's okay. Like,
Yeah.
I write a lot about heartbreak in the book, and I say, like, I had real love really young. Like, my first love at 18 was like this beautiful, real, epic love. Like, we were having engagement rings designed and whatnot. And then I didn't get real love again until The Boss, 10-year window from when I broke up with that first love to finding Matt. And in that 10-year window, I dated beautiful dingoes, like absolutely beautiful lessons. And I don't regret any of them, but like, that was horrible. So many of those experiences were like narcissistic. They were like horrible to me sometimes, but obviously like it's where I was psychologically as well. And I take full
Mm.
responsibility. But yeah, I guess what I'm trying to say is like, even the shit experiences end up being these beautiful gifts.
Well, this has opened us up to where I wanted to take our episode until we just went off onto that beautiful tangent that I'm just like so thrilled with. Because before we hit record, I was like, so this is how I want to outline the episode, this, and this. And we've just totally made it into something else that's totally beautiful, which I love. But let's go into it. So I was going to ask you because your new book, Fearlessly Failing, cannot wait to read it and can't wait for it to be out. And that's part of why you're back as well.
Oh, dude, I haven't even seen a copy. I'll be sending you a copy the second it is out. I don't even have a physical copy to like hold in my hands. I've never touched it. I've never seen it. I'm like writing to my publishers being like, when are they arriving? Like I can't wait.
That moment when you have the book in your hands will
Totally.
be so beautiful. So, okay. I'm going to ask you the questions, but the first thing is, do you remember the moment that the idea for I'm going to write a book came into your head?
Totally. I didn't want to do it. So a publisher came to me after listening to the podcast and said, I think you've got a book in you. And I was like, nah, done. I'm hanging my author shoes up. I was like, I've written 10. I don't want to write another recipe book. And she was like, no, I think it's personal development, memoir style. And I was like, nah. I was like, nah, I'm going to America, clean slate. I'm not coming back to it. I had no intention of coming back straight away. And she's like, no, I think you can do like, I think we can do this. And then I agreed to it. And it was a very different writing experience to anything I've ever experienced in my writing career to date. And I wrote it all in lockdown. When you and I last spoke, I would have been working on it. But there was no first initial idea. Absolutely not. I do remember when I was like, all right, I'm going to do this. I went out and bought ginormous butcher paper and I just started like mind mapping like ideas and topics. And then I started writing an introduction because I wanted to understand the tone. And I didn't want to timestamp it to be like, this is a book written in COVID. Like I really wanted to just make it a book that anyone could pick up and be like, oh, I needed that little piece. I needed that little pep me up. And that's why I chose to write it in the end.
That's beautiful. Do you think there was an element of like, this scares me, so I'm going to walk into it?
Yeah, it was definitely petrifying because you feel so much more vulnerable when you write personal stories and there's so much personal stuff in there. So yeah, of course, I felt very vulnerable and I was rechecking. And I really care about people that I care, like people that I know and have written about. I really care about, even like tough breakups and whatnot. I always reread and double check that everyone. I'm a nurturer, so I like to protect people. And so I was like, just going to check that this is really respectful, even though it's the truth and they're a bit of a dick. Like, I'll try and like protect people best I can always.
Did you have to change names and things?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But which was fun, but
Was
scary.
that fun?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked that question because I'm never going to lie. So, but from manuscript 1, so you deliver one big hunk. Then when it's time to edit, someone will come and help you and be like, hey, we need to protect you and we need to also be respectful. And I was like, I totally get that. So a lot was rewritten and re-edited and reworked to make it a book that's really inspiring, but also not to like, I remember I got feedback notes one day and my publisher was like, that's a bit whingy, Lola. And I was like, I was so offended. And I was like, oh my God. And so, but it was great because it allowed me to get in there with my editor. I was so lucky. I had the most incredible, shout out to Simon Davis. Like I had the best editor and we just sat down and went through it all like real, because I said, it's got to be honest. And so we kept it honest, but we kept it really just like about the reader, not about me.
Yeah. And hey, it's okay to be a little whingy, be in our victim mode. Sometimes we've all got to be there, but like, yeah, I hear what you're saying. It's more like, how's this going to help the person reading it?
Totally.
Yeah, I hear you. Okay. So it's all about failing and failure and all our big fuck ups in life. So I thought it'd be fun to go through because there are these 3 key elements in life that everyone wants, right? We all want love, we want career or work or wealth success, and then we want wait, hold on, I said love, then we want our health, right? Some kind of health aspiration, or just protecting our health and being well. So going through, I thought it'd be fun to go through each one of those categories, it's three of them, and ask you, what have you learned from that experience, and how did you get out of it as well? How did you sort of maneuver your way through that failure? So let's go. You mentioned a bit about love. Can we dive deeper into that one?
Yeah, totally. I mean, how long have you got? We could talk about so many.
I love
I
love.
remember I haven't spoken about this on a podcast at all before. So I remember I dated this guy who was so lovely, and he was obsessed. And I'm not sounding like a dick saying that, but I'd never dated someone that had honestly like made me feel like a princess. I'd never experienced that in my life, and I'd come from dating a few dating mishaps where I'd felt like quite low self-worth and whatnot. So when this person entered my life, I was like, oh my goodness, can guys treat girls this way? Like I was so excited and kind of like wrapped up in the way he was really charming and passionate and driven. And I was like, oh my God. But he treated me literally like a princess. And I was like, this is cool. This is very nice. But there was a few red flags that I was choosing to ignore. He had his own mental health battle. I had my own mental health battle. I was still in an eating disorder then as well. And yeah, I tried to when I started to feel like it was really coming at a cost to both of us, I tried to call the relationship and I was like, this isn't really working. And he really guilted me into his own battles with mental health. And he was like, I've got this really dark history of trying to commit suicide. And I was like, far out, went to Lola heal mode. And I was like, okay, I'm staying with you. We will get through this. And like I then like warped in and it made it so much worse. It made his mental health worse. It made my mental health worse. And I remember the penny drop moment. This is going to sound really spiritual, but we were on our way to an event and I wanted to stop off on the way to the event and thank a friend, and I bought her a bunch of flowers. And I was like, can you just pull over here? I'm going to take this bunch of flowers to my friend to say thank you. And he's like, don't have time, don't have time. And he pulled over and I got out of the car and I was running across the road and I got hit by a car. Yeah.
Oh my
And you know
God.
when you're in shock, I haven't told anyone this story. And you know when you're in shock and I rolled up on the window, like I rolled up onto the windshield and then rolled off the car, got up and just ran because I was like fully in adrenaline mode, dropped the stupid flowers off, come back, and my boyfriend at the time and the other driver are fighting. And I was just like, oh my God, I've got to get out of here. Like we are going somewhere. And I was in total shock. And like they stopped fighting. We get to this event. And I just remembered thinking after, like later in the night, I was like, Lola, this is your wake up call. And he was such a beautiful person and so sweet. We just went right. We had different values and
Yeah.
really wanted different things, but like I had chosen to ignore every single red flag. And so that was on me. And so yeah, that was a pretty big like heartbreak failure. And I went back to him a few times. It took a long time to cut properly. I wasn't very good at it then. But
Yeah.
yeah, again, another like but beautiful human. Like he was lovely.
I'm sure that the allure of that comfort and safety would have been there too, which like all of us can be tempted by when you're
Oh,
otherwise feeling scared, or life's hard.
yeah, and he had money, and I didn't know what that felt like or looked like. He picked me up in a Range Rover, and I was like, oh my God. Like, I didn't have a car at the time, like all these little things that you don't even realize that are like shiny, fun things. But that relationship was just misaligned values. That's all that was. And we both needed therapy. We both needed to work on our mental health.
And so it sounds like that's really the value in that lesson that you learned, was those things. And again, it's always like more of what you do want in a partner versus what you don't want. And then maneuvering out of that scenario, actually getting out of it for good. What were some of the things that helped you?
Well, it was a really tricky one. We had a really hard conversation, both just cried our eyes out, and he kind of gave me an ultimatum, very Hollywood movie style, and I just focused on letting him go. And then I actually had the person that helped me through that breakup was my personal trainer in Sydney. And he was just like, I started to just really care about my health. Like I really just, that was the one thing that got me through. And I go to my trainer twice a week and like do weights and things that made me feel strong. And that had such an impact on my mental health as well. And that sounds really weird, but that trainer, he probably would never know, but that trainer, Dan, really helped me to process that just by holding space for me for those 2 training sessions a week. Sounds weird, but it was so
No,
helpful.
I totally get it when you're not feeling strong within yourself to feel strong out, like in your physical body, when you're not feeling strong emotionally, is just something that is very, very, like it holds you through. It's like a support. And you're like, oh,
Totally.
I can get through stuff. Cool. And so then this transitions nicely into the health category. Where do you feel like is like one of your biggest failures in health? And interpret that however you want.
Totally. I mean, it's no secret I've had an eating disorder, but I don't know that that totally leaves you. Like, I know that sounds like a really messed up way to answer that, but I feel like it does creep in when I'm feeling stressed or anxious. But I would say now my biggest issue is more about like caring what other people think of my body and listening, because people do comment more than you'd realize, and caring about that and not calling it out, I would say, is my biggest failure. So I've learned, my therapist has really taught me well, like if someone says something nasty about my body, my therapist just says, ask them why they've said that. And so I'll be like, hey, why'd you just say that? Like I'm really comfortable sitting in that fire of like, hey, that's unkind and that hurt me, can I ask why you did that? And people don't know what to do when you do that. They're like, oh, what? I didn't. And they'll, if they're quick minded and narcissistic, they'll flip it around and make it about you and try to get you to self doubt yourself. But usually people will not know what to do when you just simply question what they've done. But yeah, I think now my health is like, I just want to do what feels good for me. And I don't really give an F about that, like other people's opinion of my health. I'm a female. We all know our bodies change like at certain times of the month. Like, who cares? But I've definitely still got a little bit of body dysmorphia. Like yesterday, I got sent active wear to my hotel quarantine and it said small on it. And I was like, oh, is that going to fit? And it's like, I put it on straight away. It fit perfect. But like my
Yeah.
brain still does that. Like there's
Yeah.
still something. And that's why I work with my psych once a week.
Yeah, and you just keep working on it. And that's really, I love that idea of, almost when someone's trying to hand you a shit sandwich, you're just like giving it back to them because it is about them. Like happy people who are confident in themselves do not judge others like that and troll others.
Totally.
So
Totally. I like the shit sandwich. I'm stealing that. When I'll be like, thank you for this shit sandwich, but I don't really want that. I feel like you need that.
yeah. But it's like, it's honestly, when people feel terrible about themselves, they just vomit out this like poison onto others. And that's all that judgment is. And it's so crazy, isn't it, how terrified we all are of it? But it's like, it says so much more about the other person. So I love that you turn it back and you just say, well, what's going on for you that you would say that? Like, come on.
It's so powerful. It's look, it's hard to do. I did it with a friend that dicked me over in America, and I said to them, "Hey, why'd you just do that?" And she was just like stopped in her tracks, and I said, "It was really mean and really hurtful, and you made me feel really awkward in that situation. I don't understand why you do it." She spun some bullshit lie, and I said, that's not true. Like I go, it's really easy for you to have your friends back. And she didn't even need to have my back. She just was being a dick. And she turned it all around on me and tried to gaslight me and was like, you're just really stressed out, Lola. And I was
Ooh,
so angry that I just started crying. I couldn't, I was like so hurt that I was just
yeah.
like, oh my God, burst into tears, which technically is a failure, but it was beautiful. I never saw that person ever again.
And that's so, again, so powerful to hold your own when someone's telling you, are you sure you're not just a bit stressed? And
Yeah.
yeah, because it's like they're trying to basically not accept responsibility for saying something really mean and hurtful that's come
Yeah.
from a pretty toxic place.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. Love that. You're doing amazing with these, by the way. I know you're not. I know you're sort of. This isn't your first rate rodeo with like kind of being vulnerable with stuff, but it's these are really powerful stories to share. The last category is what's your biggest failure in work slash career slash even finances? Because we've all stuffed those up at some point.
Yeah. I love this one. And thanks for liking all my answers. I'm trying to make them different. I haven't said that like the relationship story ever on a podcast. So I'm hoping that this makes yours very nice and special.
Exclusive.
But financially, even like coming back home is costing like a house mortgage. Like, uh, you know, that was so stressful. Like I was like, shit, I could have bought a home in LA or bought a home in Byron Bay and put down a mortgage, but like my flight over, my flight back, plus quarantine, like plus legal fees to get a green card. The green card, I shit you not, has cost me $80,000. By the time I got the legal fees, got it done, paid for my accom over there, paid for my flights back, like the process of what this trip is called, which is an activation trip for the green card, that's 80 to 100 grand gone. Mental. And so it makes me think, and I don't see it as a failure, but it makes me go, shit, Lola, like you're throwing so much of yourself at this dream. Like you can't afford to believe that it's going to fail. I'll definitely fail along the way. I fail more than I succeed, but I can't afford to let myself not believe in myself. That sounds like bad English, but you know what I mean?
I know exactly what you're saying. It's like there's a lot riding on yourself. You've really invested in yourself, and that like pain in the hip pocket is so much like so it's just gonna charge you up, just fuel you to
I
keep
hope
persisting.
so, mate. I hope so.
Yeah, but like you've gone all in. It's like when people invest all in like a startup in a business. It's a similar kind of thing. You are your business, right?
Yeah, it definitely feels like that. And it like, but also remember, like in Australia, like we have a different set of values, and from a society perspective, this is very general. This is definitely not for everybody, but like that 80 to 100 grand could have been a home, like a house mortgage. And I'm 35. The most common question I've been asked since I've come to, oh, I'm 36. I turned 36
Yeah, I
this
was about
year.
to say, didn't you just have a
Oh
birthday?
my God. You know how your brain does that? I think 36 sounds pretty cool, but I the most common DM that I've had since I've been in quarantine is, are you back to have babies? Are you coming back to have a kid? In America, do you know what the most common question is? Oh, so like, are you an actor or are you a TV host? Like, oh, you've got this, you've got that. Oh, like they're so nobody's asked me about kids. Nobody's
Is it
asked me
more
my
like
age.
what's your dream? What do you like? What do you do? Yeah? What's your
And people
mission?
have kids like 43, 44 in America, much older than us.
Which is amazing.
I love it.
I love that too. I mean, gosh, I still have my fears about the whole idea of, giving I want to be a mother, but it's like giving everything to this other being, as much as I'm sure that would be beautiful. It's like, so I actually did a podcast just the other day about the life plan, and this feeling that we all have that we've gone off plan because we're always going to be off plan somehow.
Totally. And I think like if you talk to 20-year-old me, I'd be like, yeah, so at 25, I'm going to be an actress in the movies. And then like I'll have 2 kids and I'll have a home in Sydney. And then maybe I'll have a home in LA. Like, are you a bazillionaire, Lola? Come on. So no, I don't think it happens the way that people think it's going to happen at all. And I think like you've really got to fight for your dream. You've got to fight for your passion. You've got to fight for your purpose. Because I don't know about you, but I don't want to live with regret. I don't want to look back when I'm 50 and be like 60, 70. I don't want to look back and be like, shivers, I really wish I tried that thing, or I wish I
Yeah.
gave that a crack, or like, and I know that could still come for me because I've chosen not to have kids in my most fertile years. But my boyfriend and I have a pact where we check in every 2 years, and at 35 we checked in and we both said, yep, we're not ready to have kids. Yep, let's check in at 37 and we'll just see how we're both feeling. And we're both okay with the risk that we're running of my fertility. But like, Also, I'm healthy AF and I look after my health for that reason too.
This is so refreshing to hear, especially so I've just turned 30 this year. So all my friends, it's the 30 thing and it's all my friends getting engaged and all of that. So it's very much, do you think it's one of those things, it's like, it's not that we can't have dreams and want certain things in our lives, but we've just got to throw the timeline out the door.
Oh, a million. Also, that's our parents' timeline. That's a
Mm,
different set of social norm. That's a different annual income. There are different risks. Like we've just lived through history with the pandemic,
yeah.
So I'm hoping this has shaken everyone up and they're like, oh my God, like I need to go after this thing that's really important to me. And that might mean having kids, settling down and building a safe home, But for me, it is like I'm chasing this big dream. Like I want to crack Hollywood. Like that's important to me. So I think I'm hoping that it gives our generation and the generations below us this drive to chase our dreams unapologetically.
Yeah, because we're not going to be here forever. And I love that point you made that, like, that might be your parents' path or your grandparents' path, but also there were very different environments going on. The housing market was a totally different thing, for example, if it's about buying a house, right?
Totally, completely. And like I think the Australian dream is, I think, please correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it's defined as like a home with a backyard. To
Mm,
own a home with a backyard is this. And I'm like, ooh, no thanks, no Hills Hoist for me. I want a few homes, but like that's not saying I want to be rich. That's saying I want to chase a dream that facilitates me being able to live in different parts of the world.
yeah, that pursuit of freedom. I mean, we've got it available to us. Like, why not go for it? Especially with the way that the internet allows us these freedoms. You can be, in LA in a long distance relationship, and that works because of the, internet that we have. Like, you couldn't do those things 30, 40, 50 years ago so easily.
Totally. And like I get so many questions about long distance thing. They're like, "Oh, you must be missing him so much." And we've both said it's been the best thing for our relationship. Like we are more teammates than ever. We
Mhm.
love our check-ins, but because you're not physically with each other, you end up chit-chatting about all these different things and things that you love or what you're watching or what you've experienced. And it's so nice to share it with someone in a different I don't know, it's almost like you're getting to know each other back old school days or something. I don't know. I love it.
Yeah, I hear you. Well, it's not like when you're waking up doing your whole morning routine together. It's like you can't say how was your day. You've already seen how their day was, especially if you're in lockdown together. Like
Yeah,
there's no
totally.
secrets. So I love that. Oh my gosh. And Lola, I guess at the end of the day, I was going to tie this in before. I thought it'd be a bit clever, but you know, going for our dreams anyway, saying screw you timeline, it doesn't matter, but I'm not gonna be here forever. I'm gonna go for it. It's kind of like jumping out of the plane, skydiving. It's kind of the same thing, isn't it? It's like ultimate surrender. Like you can why not live this life hoping and chasing dreams and being in that state of like hot pursuit of like what lights you up versus kind of just standing on the ground the whole time, not getting on the plane.
Totally. And I think also like a friend of mine I was talking to and I had my birthday lunch and he was like, he was telling me about a really inspiring friend of his. And he said, I knew with her many years ago that it wasn't a matter of if she'll make it, it was a matter of when. And
Mm,
I think they say in LA, like, if you are in Hollywood long enough, you make it because you just pound the pavement over and over and you're there and you're auditioning and you're getting that agent. You're like going for it and you're getting like, if you want to build resilience, just be an actor because you're getting rejected every single day. Like I got sent an audition yesterday and it looked great. And from my acting agents in Australia. And I was like, oh, great. Yep. I'll put a self-tape up. And then I was like, when's it shooting? And they're like, oh no, it's while you're still in quarantine. You won't be able to do it. And so you're hitting rejection after rejection after, or like setback after setback. And you'll feel like you've just got a hold of something and then it'll pull you down. Like, yeah,
yeah.
you got to go after it. And I think like you got to, that you yeah, it's like this beautiful combination of surrender, like you said, but also being powerful and standing in your own power.
And no doubt, Lola, you've done that in, and I have too through dating. through the like the false starts, the like, oh, I thought this is the one. Oh, no, it's not. And recovering from that again and again through starting businesses, or you've been putting books out there, and like there's that sense of, resilience of just like, I'm going to do another one. I'm going to go for it again and go through all that challenge again. And oh, like I do love the what you've gained from acting though. That's so powerful and so brilliant. And I love that LA, you've made me want to go there. I've never wanted to go to LA, but hearing that people actually talk like that and are so open to people having big dreams is very exciting. Like that's a very beautiful place to be.
And there's no judgment. Like I think I said this in another interview, but like you rock up to acting school and they're like, hey, what's your pronoun? And that's the first thing they say to you. And like gender fluidity is like huge. Like, it's like, who are you today? Like, forget about yesterday. Like, who are you today? And it's just so cool. I've said this a few times to friends, but like, I am obsessed with Harry Styles. And I think he is the most epic sex icon for the younger generation. He is unapologetically himself. Epic fashion sense also, might I say, but like there's this real fluidity about him, and I just think it's so beautiful that the children of today are growing up with that being the icon. I love that.
Yeah, really challenging some of those hard stereotypes we have, that toxic masculinity of like, this is what it means if you're a man, or yeah, whatever you want to be. I
love
love
it.
that. You can kind of be whoever the hell you want to be.
If you love that, then you will love LA. It's also a tough city. I'm not going to lie. It's rough. It's tough. It's direct. I had a few scary experiences,
Yeah.
and like the gun laws is confronting. But yeah, that's also like my therapist said to me, he goes, if you want to fly the highest you can fly, you have to go to an area of risk. Like that's just the way it rolls. He's like, you can't stay safe and fly, which comes back to your skydiving analogy.
Exactly. And this is what I would say, like, what else are we here for if not to just go for it?
Yeah, totally. I'm 1,000% with you.
I think that's a beautiful place to wrap us up. Thank you so much, Lola. Where can we find you? Everyone knows where to find you, but just tell us again. And also, where can we get your book?
I'm going to send you the pre-order link so you can pop it in your show notes.
Beautiful.
But eventually it'll be everywhere. As soon as everyone's out of lockdown, you'll be able to get it at like Big W, Kmart, Maya, DJs, all that, and Dimmicks. I'm hoping I can do some book signings, but if anyone orders off the pre-order link, I'm doing all the book signings here in quarantine, so you get a signed copy. And then I'm Yummo Lola Berry on Insta. Just don't troll me, guys. Just be nice.
Be nice. Just be nice to people in general. Love that. Thanks so much, Lola. I've got all that information in the show notes for everyone. You have a beautiful rest of your quarantine, and I'm just super excited for this episode to go to air.
Me too. Thank you so much.
To get to the root cause of your anxiety and leave no stone unturned, covering every facet of the anxiety reset method, from the thoughts you think to the health of your gut, your nutritional status, your hormones, and your lifestyle, then jump on the waitlist for the 90-day Anxiety Reset Program. This is the tried and tested path to help you find your true self, feel more balanced, and really become the master of your anxious mind. You'll be first to hear about the exciting upgrades when the program is next available. And you'll also hear exclusive benefits around the membership program that will be offered very soon. And if you want me all to yourself and have the VIP treatment, then join the waitlist to become a private client in the Balance program. Through our intensive 3-month program, we work closely together, tailoring a plan specific to every individual need you have. Completing your application for Balance, you'll be the first to hear when my next client space opens. And no matter which option you decide is best for you, I'll give you all the tools you need to ensure you become an anxiety master.
Thank you for listening. We have reached the end of this episode. If you enjoy this podcast and you find it helpful, I would really appreciate it if you would hit subscribe or share this episode on your Instagram stories and make sure you tag at Georgie the Naturopath. But that is all for today. Please be kind to yourselves. Know that you are enough and you are exactly where you need to be.